Welcome back, friend. I know you've been traveling the world, and if you don't know, the voice behind right now is Joel Numdarkam Latoya's bestie, who always pull her to studios because I saw her went on a very festive trip, and I'm like, you need to come and tell the people how was that? How was it?
Well, thank you for that. It was unbelievably good. The Ake Book and Arts Festival, I was fortunate enough to be invited by Lola last year to attend, and it was, as someone who was introduced to African literature via Chinua Achebe in sixth form after a steady diet of Greek mythology and Shakespeare. And of course, yes, I started to read more books where I could identify myself and stories, but Ake was just this feast. It was like having little bits over the years and then going into this dining space, right? Where it was like a buffet, you could pick and choose. And it was so much quality, right, in terms of the authors. And what I love about the festival is that it really, the word diverse is used a lot, but it was so applicable in this context. You had people from publishers and authors from all over the continent who were attending, East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa. It was really something to experience, something you can't experience on Zoom. Even though I know we've had to use those tools over the pandemic, but there's nothing like that in-person connection and the opportunity to hear fascinating discussions live and to have that energy between the audience and the panelists. And I also got to chair a panel on African women in publishing, and that was fantastic, getting perspectives from a translator, from someone working in audiobooks, and Amma is a person who works in audiobooks from Ghana, and her story of going into audiobooks because her mom is blind, right? And having that personal conviction that I need to make things accessible. My mom loves books, she should be able to read them in the way that she can. Sandra from Mozambique, who is doing important work with translation, and not just translation in terms of English to whichever, but looking at how Africans among themselves, because the continent is so diverse. In Nigeria alone, people are speaking over 500 languages. I don't know how many of them are active, but I know just to think of the number 500
Yes.
among millions of people is fascinating. And of course, it was just I feel privileged to have had that experience.
And I mean, this time I got left. And I wanted to know a little bit more in terms of, you've been doing so much work around the world, but for the Ake Festival in particular, how did you get to Nigeria?
Wow, I'd say magic, but that magic has a name and it's Lola. And the festival celebrated 10 years this year, and just by the quality of the partnership that I was able to observe, it tells you about the effort of the team, the work that goes into planning the festival, the work that goes into making the space feel like it's welcoming to all. So important. So I'm very grateful for the invitation, and of course Lola is my colleague in the Publish Her world, that global movement for women in publishing. She currently sits on the board and, is just doing amazing work for women, not only on the continent, but people of African descent and everyone who needs, a voice, visibility, viability, wherever they are in the world.
I don't know, you have a personal challenge this year, coming from the Ake Festival to read African-only literature.
Yeah.
Talk
It's
to me
not even
about
a
that.
challenge, it's like a treat. The thing is, going to the festival, bookstores have a weakness, right, already. So I'm on the continent, the travel to come back to Jamaica, and I'm like, how am I going to transport all these books? Because I'm not leaving them. But I went about just picking books that, can give me different perspectives, non-fiction, fiction, short stories, novels. And I think I've done a good job of selecting. And I'm looking forward to reading all of them. But of course, there's some that definitely piqued my interest just in terms of hearing the authors speak. There is Uncommon Wealth here, and this is by Kojo Koram, and I had the pleasure of meeting him. And it's interesting for me, somebody from the Caribbean diaspora, because of the conversation I know about reparations and all of that, and how, and even building on, the thoughts of Walter Rodney about underdevelopment and how, that didn't really stop. It's persisting, but in different ways and with different actors, or maybe some of the same actors, but a lot of food for thought. So I'm really looking forward to that. I would say as well, Shigidi. This is by Wole, and I got the chance to Wole Talabi. If I'm butchering the name, please forgive me. But had an opportunity to meet him as well. And what I love about this book, I haven't read it yet, but just listening to his presentation and reading the blurb and all of that, is that, we have heard the term magic in talking about, African and Black people, but this book is a solid introduction, I would say, for anyone looking to read new African literature that can make you go into different worlds mentally, from car chases to things that, in our culture we call them rolling calf, but in the, it's a different name in this context, but you get to realize that some of the themes in terms of spirituality and practices and African retentions, it's like we call in different names, but it's the same thing. So I'm excited to read this, and it's something I could see on screen, honestly. Reading it in terms of the summary and hearing him read it, I'm excited. Of course, there are others. I can't go into all of them, but I'm definitely writing my blog, so you can check out each title that I'll be reading and what month I'll be reading them for, but looking forward to that.
This is so good because, again, the intersection between Caribbean life, Africa, it's quite well connected. And I know sometimes a lot of people say, listen, if it's one thing every Caribbean people or every Black person living outside of Africa should be able to experience, is going there.
Correct. There's nothing, it's not something you can, I know we have Zoom out of the pandemic and all of that, but to experience Africa, I don't think Zoom offers that experience. It's really something for me, it was a dream come true to meet so many people from different parts of the continent who are doing amazing things. Just looking at the work I do here in Jamaica with young people, and now kind of narrowing our focus on libraries. Yes. I know you have a thing there.
Yep.
I got an opportunity to meet the women who run the book bunk in Nairobi, and what they're doing with restoring libraries is amazing. Petina, who is in Zimbabwe, who also did this beautiful just reflection on the importance of libraries to our learning and to our life. That was a moment for me. So of course, I think we can deepen the connections through reading and understanding more, and taking it a step further after we've read, taking the practical steps to see how we can collaborate more and use our stories to empower ourselves.
And with the advocacy you have been doing in Jamaica for well over at least 2 decades. I'm not aging
Since
you.
I was 5.
Since you were 5. I'm not aging you.
Yes.
but that advocacy also has shown the great deal of work you continue to do with children, literacy, championing reading. You're the founder of the Literacy Heroes concept that would have identified 4 Jamaicans who are doing incredible work. The inspiration that you got from the Ake festival and coming back to Jamaica, what is it that you hope to champion and continue doing? Because you're already doing the work, but is there anything in particular, any area of focus, especially with children?
More than hoping, I won't disclose it yet. There is a project. There is a project. Nigeria and Jamaica have so much in terms of our historical connection that I think remains unexplored. And between myself and Lola, we've had some discussions, and we're definitely going to work on a special project which I'll announce in time. But I think the most important thing for me is every time I get the opportunity to travel, and in this particular case to attend Ake Book and Arts Festival, the opportunity unlocked, I think, for me, practical ways which I can deepen the connection. I had the opportunity to meet so many people, authors, publishers, translators, who are doing works in all different parts and on important things. And I think just being able to tap into that network to connect them with us here in the Caribbean and to work on projects, amazing. I'm excited.
And tell me about, everybody knows the story that you gave me my first jump start. If you don't know, that's why I gave him my book last June 2022. And since then I've read almost 15 books.
I didn't know that giving you that book would turn into its own movement. I'm super proud of everything that you accomplished last year, and the fact that I know you're gonna double that effort this year with boys. Last year you surpassed, even if it's by a bit, that goal of 500 boys. Reading and reasoning, so important. We know the data about what's happening with our children and reading, and to be able to zone in on that cause and make that huge contribution, fantastic. You're inspiring me now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just really excited about everything that's to come this year. So yeah.
And I love that, because that leads to my final question now, which is really, you have taken on a personal challenge to read African only literature for 2024 this year. And what kind of tip can you give anybody who is now watching this, seeing this, anybody that might come across this video? Because sometimes, again, reading already, some people consider it to be very difficult, which is why for us working on reading and reasoning together, inspiring boys to eventually take up books, what is that one major tip that you want to give everyone on how they can successfully come up with that personal reading challenge and work towards that?
I don't know if it's even major. It's just read what you like. It's very simple, but powerful. It's powerful in a context where books are introduced to a lot of young people as this tool for passing an exam. And so there's an adverse relationship that starts very early. A lot of homes are not privileged to have home libraries, and parents or guardians who are actively embedding this kind of love of reading and creating a habit with our young people. And so it's understandable that if that's the condition that a lot of young people grow up in, then becoming teens or adults, you're not gonna just have this love relationship with books. And it's the knowledge era. If you don't know, it really cripples your ability to earn, to learn, to really fully tap into your potential. And so I would say read what you like, especially for boys who you're working with. One of the things I've discovered is once they are introduced to something they like, a graphic novel, an exciting story, something that makes it doesn't have to have any big moral lesson, right? It can just be funny. It can make you feel all different ranges of emotion. That's the most important thing. Falling in love with reading is something that changes your life, and that's the mission I've been on, for children and young people. So that's the tip. Read what you like, start there, and I guarantee you that once you start on that footing, it will just blossom.